Nothing in this podcast or on our website should be construed as medical advice. Consult your healthcare provider for your individual nutritional and medical needs. The information presented is based on our research and is strictly that of the author and not necessarily those of any professional group or other individual.
Hi, I'm Sue Becker from Bread Beckers. Welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes. I'm so excited you've joined me today, and I hope this episode encourages you and allows you to find the answers you have been praying for the health of you and your family.
Today on Sue's Healthy Minutes, it is a great privilege to have a longtime friend and customer of Bread Beckers as my very special guest. Carmen Meadows and her husband were some of our first customers when we started Bread Beckers from our home way back in 1992. They both shared testimonies of what the bread had done for them physically, and it's been a pleasure to still connect with Carmen when she comes into the Bread Beckers for supplies or when I see her smiling face in the audience of one of our cooking classes. It was on one of these occasions, just before the holidays, that Carmen shared something with me that I knew would be a perfect truth to share with all of you to start the new year. I will let her tell as much of her bread journey as she would like, but first I want to introduce you to my friend, Carmen Meadows. Carmen, welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes, and thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join me today. So why don't you just begin by telling everyone a little bit about yourself and how you first heard of Bread Beckers way back when? I can't really even remember how we met.
Well, thank you for having me today, Sue. And I remember very distinctly because back in the late 80s, I had started on my bread journey at that point, and I was having to order wheat from Montana that cost me about $50 shipping for each bucket that I got.
Oh, gosh.
And my husband came home one day from work with the Cherokee Tribune, and there was an article about you guys in there.
Oh, and I had forgotten about that. Yeah.
Yes, and I still have the article. I found it in one of my cookbooks. But anyway, it was introducing your new business, and that I think in the article it said you were making cinnamon rolls for one of the gas stations.
Yes.
In the county.
Wow, that goes way back.
Oh, yeah. And so, anyway, I gave you a call, and it's been an amazing adventure ever since. At this point in my life, you've been a blessing to 3 generations of my family. And I can't thank you enough for following the calling that you had in your life, because it's been a tremendous blessing to many people, but I know firsthand it's been a fantastic blessing to me and my family.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That is a long way back, because Cherokee Tribune, that was back in 1992 when we first started. Might have been the beginning of 1993, I think, because, yeah, that's crazy. And now 3 generations of a real bread for your family. So,
yes.
A little bit about yourself. You're local to Cherokee County.
Yes, I have pretty much lived here my whole life, and I am a licensed chiropractor in Cherokee County in the state of Georgia. And so I end up talking about nutrition to lots of different people. And in fact, my focus tends to be helping people get good nutrition in their body and toxins out of their body. And what I always tell them is, your body is designed to heal itself, so if you get better, don't blame me. Because I really don't diagnose or treat anything. I just help people work on the areas in their life that need some help. And it's very interesting because I have had a little bit of a weight problem for about 20 years, and I think I know what happened. But this last year, at the beginning of the year, we decided that we were going to try to grow as much of our food as we could and not eat out. and stopped buying food from the grocery store.
Wow.
And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but we did that. And I could say if we ate all the zucchini and squash that I grew, that we grew 100% of our food, but I'm going to have to get it down to about 30%.
Oh, wow. Now, you made that as your last year's, 2023, kind of as a New Year's resolution. That was just what you said, going
Yes.
forward.
Yeah. And, I mean, I don't think about it like that, but that is exactly what happened. And
yeah, I didn't take it like that when you shared it, but I was like, this is a good New Year's resolution to start the year off. So grow as much as food as you could.
Yes. I've had a garden for lots of years, but I still consider myself a newbie and just learning all the time new things about it. So I also supplemented a lot with food from farmers and the local farmers. So in the process of doing that, I accidentally lost 43 pounds this year.
Oh, wow.
Accidentally.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go over it again. Grow as much food for yourself as possible.
Yes.
Stop buying food from the grocery store as much as possible.
Yes.
And making a commitment not to eat out as much.
Yes. And
you accidentally lost
43 pounds.
Wow.
The funny part was I've eaten fabulous food my whole adult life, just about. But the only thing I was doing still was maybe eating out twice a week and just buying food from the grocery store. And when I stopped doing that, things changed in my body. In fact, it changed so fast I was afraid I was sick, but I'm not. My labs are all great. I sleep good. I feel good. Everything works like it should. What I think was happening was 2004, my daughter and I went to Brazil in the summer here, but it was the winter there. We both came home sick, and I had pneumonia at that point. So that was the last time that I intentionally took antibiotics.
2004.
Yeah, 20 years ago. And then what I think happened when we stopped eating out is I stopped getting forms of antibiotics. But the other thing that I did was really start eating a lot of fermented food. So I think what happened is my bowel flora got healthy.
Yes.
And all the good food that I was eating, I really was getting good nutrition. And Sue, I have not enjoyed my food so much since, I was trying to think back, probably since the 60s when I didn't know there was such a thing as calories.
Wow. Wow.
I eat so good. I love the food that I get.
That is amazing. Well, okay, so tell us what's a normal day for you? When you say you started eating fermented foods, what kind of foods there? And say, what'd you have for breakfast this morning?
This morning, I had a slice of whole grain einkorn sourdough bread.
Okay.
With real butter on it. Lots of real butter on it.
Yes, lots of butter. Real butter.
Yes, I had a glass of raw milk. I had about a half a cup of yogurt with a little bit of maple syrup on it. And I had a cup of black coffee.
Wow.
And sometimes I put jelly or jam. One of the things that I have learned, and you mentioned the classes, I don't know how many classes I've been to of the Bread Beckers, but I always learn something new. And the last 2 years, because I was trying to increase how much food that we grew at home and things I was buying, sometimes in bulk from the farmer's market.
Yeah.
I learned to can, and I learned to make some jams and jellies. And just so you know, my absolutely favorite recipe that I got from your canning course was the tomato chili jam.
Oh, yeah. That's a favorite. We may have to post a link to that.
Oh, you should. It's so good. We put it on hamburgers and everything. And, you know, over the years, it's been a little bit embarrassing that I was talking to people about good nutrition and still having a weight problem. And so I would try really hard to lose weight. And usually what I did that would work a little bit was to cut some important food group out, like fat. And if I cut fat out of my diet, I would lose weight, but I would have all sorts of other health issues come up. And then I would have to start eating fat again and I'd gain the weight back. Yeah. So I am eating everything. I mean, as long as I make it and it doesn't come from the grocery store or a restaurant, it doesn't make me gain weight. In fact, I'm still losing weight. And I think I have about 15 pounds to go to weigh what I did in high school. So I know I'm not overweight anymore. And I assume my body's going to come to a set point and stop going down. But I really am enjoying myself.
Isn't that amazing? And real food is so delicious. And you're right. And some of these fad diets, the way they work is when you do eliminate a whole food group and you follow a real strict regimen, you typically can lose weight. But like you said, then you suffer. You suffer health issues because God intended us. He gave us these foods to eat for a reason. And then when we add them back because we crave them, because our body needs them, then we do gain that weight right back. And I think that's so key. So it's just so exciting to hear you talk about just eating real food.
Yes. And, my husband didn't need to lose weight, but he was struggling with getting him detoxed. So, one of the things I said was I teach people to get good nutrition in and toxins out.
Yes.
And for him, we've had such a struggle. He's been one of my most difficult patients just because, not because he's difficult, but because he just has toxin challenges. And we found that eating dried beans and rice, which we could get in plenty from the Breadbeckers, cleared toxins out of his body better than anything else. And I've tried homeopathic remedies and you name it, every natural thing you could think of.
But you discovered that dry beans and brown rice, I'm assuming, cleared out better than anything else that you had discovered. How did you figure that out? And what do you think's in the dry beans and brown rice?
The dried beans in particularly are really high in antioxidants.
Right.
And then I think the fiber was another really important part of that. What I was thinking is when you do things from a natural perspective, it may take a lot longer than if you were to take a pill or have a surgery or whatever else might be an option for you. But some of the things that you would do, like take a pill or have a surgery, might be putting a Band-Aid on it and not necessarily addressing the problem. So sometimes it's just a little bit discouraging to people when they try natural things and they don't get a fast result.
Yes, because the more natural things like food is going to it's going to heal you, not just mimic or mask a problem. Sometimes it just, when we take especially, pharmaceuticals, those shut down a particular process, that's what I try to tell everybody too. Natural may take longer, but you're healing instead of just masking or shutting something down.
Yes. And, and like I said, we've been in this process for a long time, since the late 80s at least. And even though I was doing a little bit still, like eating out maybe twice a week, I didn't have any idea how much a little bit was so bad for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm highly motivated to never go back to doing that again.
Yeah. And if you're like me, because we travel and so we eat out more than I like to, but we make fairly healthy food choices when we eat out. We rarely, I can't remember the last time I ate fast food. We go to sit down restaurants where, they have vegetables, meat, sweet potatoes, things like that look like real food. But I'm telling you, the only time I crave sugary things is after I've eaten out. Like if I'm just home eating my normal stuff, I don't have food cravings. And that's the strangest thing to me. And I'm like, something's in that food, either the seasoning or something, even though it looks, meat, potatoes, broccoli, asparagus, those are some of my favorites. I will come home and I'm like, I want something sweet. And I don't crave that at all when I'm just eating my own food.
That's one thing that I did notice is how satisfied I feel with the real food.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, nutritionally, it's so much better for you. It did kind of present a little bit of a problem in the fact that I lost weight so fast. Now I need to figure out how to tighten skin up, but I'm sure real food's going to do that too.
Yes. So, one thing I wanted to ask you is you've shared the benefits you saw physically, but I bet you saw financial benefits as well.
Well, that is a really good point because we would go sit down at a sit-down restaurant and we might spend for two people $100.
Yeah.
And first of all, growing your own food is expensive to start with because you need to get your soil right. And I do a lot of container gardening,
right,
which meant, there was some expense with the containers initially and the good soil to put in there. And so, there's a little expense up front, but once you get that all kind of straightened out, it is so inexpensive to grow your own food. And I'm trying to learn to grow heirloom seeds so I can save seeds, and that saves you even more money. But, just not eating out gave me a lot more money to spend on organic produce if I had, whatever I did have to buy.
Yes.
And another thing that we already had been incorporating was we would do a 36-hour fast about every 2 weeks. Except in the summer when there's fresh produce everywhere, we don't fast at all in that situation because everything is so good and nutritious and you don't want to let your good produce just sit there.
That's a good
while you're hungry.
And fruits and vegetables are very cleansing and detoxifying as well, and
they sure are.
They're digested very quickly, so they give your body a similar rest.
But anyway, the occasional fast, if you did one day a week, you're saving 14% on your grocery bill off the top. So, there's lots of different things you can do that really make it a lot more reasonable to buy good produce or to, set up your own little garden. And even if I didn't have a little bit of dirt outside to plant things in, we do sprouting and have such good nutritious sprouts. And we, you asked earlier about fermenting. Right now I'm experimenting. I finally got started with my first trial on cultivated butter.
Yes. I remember you come. In fact, I think that was when you shared, and that's what you were asking.
Yes, that's what I was looking for. And we do sauerkraut, kimchi, liquid kefir that I got the starter from the store for. Mm-hmm. We do sourdough bread. We do dairy kefir. I usually either do dairy kefir or fresh yogurt. So I kind of switch back and forth. And then I started making apple scrap vinegar, which is a fermented or fruit scrap. You don't have to use just apples. But I do have a really big variety of fermented things, and none of them take a lot of time. It's just way easier than I would have imagined that it is.
Yeah. It's basically, the vegetables are just shredding the vegetables, either adding a culture or salt even, for sauerkraut and waiting a few days. It's kind of like bread. It's a little bit of hands-on right at first, and then the rest is waiting. Yeah.
Yes. And I personally love the hands-on part of it. And it helps to have the right tools. And that's one thing I've really enjoyed going to your store for, because I got a dehydrator and a pressure cooker and a
Yes.
sprouting stuff. I mean, whatever I need is there.
Yeah. And I know, and you're right. I know the initial investment can be, expensive and an outlay in the beginning, but to me, the payoff is it's priceless. You can't calculate it. When you feel better, and how much money do people spend? I don't remember the statistics right now, but how much money is spent in this country on weight loss?
It's a great industry.
It's a huge industry, and everything that pops up on social media is all about losing weight right now, because that's what everybody is thinking about. And how simple if we just make some minor adjustments. And like you said, you didn't do it all at once.
Well, the other thing is I tried so many different ways to lose weight, and then I just did it accidentally. I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't.
Yeah, that is just so amazing. So when you work with your patients, your clients, and tell everybody, I know you're in Woodstock. What's the name of your clinic?
My business is Meadows Family Chiropractic, and I'm sort of semi-retired right now, so okay. I'm very limited on new patients, but I do consultations via Zoom with patients in Georgia and other states as well.
Okay, all right. So when you talk to someone about improving their nutrition and detoxifying, getting rid of toxins, what are some of the easy, simple points that you bring up? What are some of the steps that you give them?
Well, the very first thing that I encourage them to do is eliminate food addictions.
Right.
And so that typically would be sugar and caffeine, and some things are a lot more challenging than others, but some people have a whole lot more work to do than others, let's just say. So anyway, that's where we start first. And then a lot of times I will encourage them to get a hair sample test to see what they're actually reacting to, because our bodies are designed to have a rotational diet, but because we have availability 24/7, 365 of whatever we want, we tend to get in ruts and just eat the same thing all the time. So our bodies will develop sensitivities to that, because that encourages us to stop doing something and move on to something else. So I try to take as much of the guesswork out of it as possible, and I'll say, let's do a hair sample test and see what shows up as an allergy or a sensitivity, and we'll start by eliminating those foods for 90 days and make sure you're getting your gut healed up. And sometimes they'll need to address parasites or heavy metals or some other kind of toxic issue that they're having. And my patients at this point, at least for this year, the people that have been regular patients will ask me, what do I need to do? And then they'll say, but I know what you're going to say. You're going to tell me to stop eating out all the time. Well, at least I have a consistent message.
There you go. And with both detoxifying and eliminating food addictions, that's where I found real bread made from freshly ground whole grains, because it's so satisfying. It takes away those sugar cravings. It's giving your body the right kind of sugars in the right amount, released over, all day, several hours after a meal, that it made those food addictions a lot easier it just took them away. And the same with caffeine. One of the reasons we are addicted to caffeine is it shoots our blood sugar and adrenaline up, drops us down, and then we got to have more caffeine to keep going. And that steady release of energy from real whole grains, bread made from freshly ground whole grains, or rice and beans, or whatever, real whole grains in any form, that is a huge step in conquering that first step of what you're saying, of introducing good nutrition, is getting rid of those food addictions. It's powerful.
Yes. And, I did want to mention, when I was eliminating different groups of food trying to lose weight, I never eliminated grain because I knew how valuable it was. But what I would end up doing is eliminating fat or eliminating meat. And every time I did, I would lose 10 pounds pretty quickly. And then I'd start feeling bad.
Yeah. These drastic diets of elimination they're not sustainable. They cause problems in other areas, malnutrition in other areas, like you said. And you'll see real quick results, but it's kind of like what you said earlier too. It's kind of like using a pharmaceutical or this or that or the other to stop a symptom, but it's not the answer. Eating healthy may take a longer time, but it is so much healthier. So over the course of a year, you lost 42 pounds. And some people on these crash diets or using supplements or whatever may see a drop in a shorter time. But then once they stop that, it all comes flooding back. And yet you've just progressively done it. Accidentally.
Yes, accidentally. But that also brought up a point with the supplements. We kind of live in this paradigm of take a pill and get better. And that kind of bleeds over even into natural medicine, where people just are thinking, I can just take this supplement and it'll do the trick for me. And I'm not saying you should never take supplements, because sometimes there's a time and a place for that, but not relying on that for long term, because real food, not only is the nutrition in there, but it's nutrition in conjunction with lots of other things at the same time. So let's say we isolate something in a supplement that has been shown to really help. Well, you're pulling it out from all the other compounds that it works with in the real food. And so it's not the same.
No, it's not at all. Real food, all those vitamins, minerals that are there, they work synergistically. And there's no way you can recreate that in a supplement. And I've done a podcast on this. Supplements should be just that, supplemental. We do live in a toxic world, and, I agree that there are times and places for supplements, and we live in a stressful world. Those B vitamins are so important for that. But, you're right. Real food is synergistic. It provides the nutrients we need in the proper balance. And then there's all those phytochemicals and enzymes that they haven't even isolated. We don't know what's all in God's creation that do things for our bodies and in our bodies that can never be duplicated by man. Even supplements that come from a food source, you're right. They've isolated those things out.
I have hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of postdoctoral training in nutrition. But what that always ends up being is this is a supplement that you need to make sure your patient is taking.
Yeah.
And so the argument that I hear people say is, but our soil isn't like it used to be, and we're missing things from the soil. But what I found out is the source of that information is coming from the people that want me to buy the supplement.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we're, really trying to incorporate and learn with our gardening is regenerative gardening, where we make sure that our soil is healthy. And, we just have the best food.
Yes, there is nothing like a homegrown cucumber, tomato, green bean, black-eyed pea. There's corn. There's just nothing like it. And the farmers markets are becoming more and more popular. So I hear people going, but I can't garden. I live, alone, or I live in an apartment, or I don't have the time or the space. And I understand that, but there is so much now available to us with farmers markets and local farming and techniques that people are adopting and adapting to, that it's becoming more and more available. And yes, you will pay a little bit more, but again, the benefits outweigh the cost just about. I think.
Well, one of my favorite fast food things I do these days is I pick up a can of home pressure canned beef stew and open it up and heat it.
Yep.
If I want to add something to it, I can. But I mean, it's not that we have to cook big, heavy meals every single day. You can do preservation. And I thought about this because, I would never be able to grow everything. Like I don't have fruit trees. I don't grow wheat. Of course, I have a wonderful source for that. But there's just a lot of things that you do have to buy from other places. But one of the things we wanted to do was, at some point in my family history and my husband's family history, we had ancestors that thought moving to Atlanta was a good place to farm and raise a big family. And things have changed a lot since then. But we definitely want to kind of go back more to what our grandparents did. And they had a little garden in their backyard, and they grew herbs, and, they just had a much simpler lifestyle.
Yeah. And that's where Brad and we want to be as well. Just a simpler lifestyle, easier lifestyle. And, sometimes I think we've overcomplicated even our meals, that we think everything has to be just this elaborate preparation. And I just know we just got back from Greece, and sometimes it was just a delicious salad,
Yeah.
One of the salads that is traditional on the Isle of Crete is this hardtack bread. It's made of freshly ground barley and wheat with fresh diced tomatoes, feta cheese, oregano, and then drizzled with olive oil. And they eat that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that's a meal.
Wow.
She just pulled out dried dates, dried figs, some cheese, some fruit, and that was dessert. Yeah, we think it's got to be a cake, a cheesecake, or, and those are wonderful. And I still make those from time to time, but sometimes just simple is so delicious.
Well, we kind of joke about this, but not really. But we call that peasant food, and we love it. It's like our go-to everything.
Yeah.
The more simple, the better.
Yep. Peasant food. I like that. Yeah, that's great. And that's one thing I teach all the time. Years ago, the peasant bread, as it was called, was the nutritious whole grain bread, because they didn't have the workforce, the servants, whatever, to sift the bran and germ away. And plus, they couldn't lose that much of their food source, like the rich people. And they were the healthiest. The kings and the rich people, they had all the heart disease, the cancer, diabetes, just like we have today. And it is just something, I think, a great goal for 2024 for all of us is to go back to as simplest lifestyle as possible, just one step at a time, like you've been doing over the course of 40 years now.
Yes.
One step at a time. What's the next step I can make? What's the next thing I can eliminate? What's the next thing I can add in, and just see where it takes us? And I just think that's amazing. And I just knew when you shared with me that day, I'm like, this is a great New Year's resolution episode of Sue's Healthy Minutes. So I just want to thank you for sharing everything today. And I think you've been a great encouragement, I know to me, but as many as are listening today. And as we close, is there one last thought? I always like to ask this, that you would like to leave our listeners with today? Just one last word of encouragement.
Yes. In Psalm 139:16, it says in there that the days of our lives are written in God's book of life before we take our first breath. And what I always tell my patients is, we may not be able to add any days to our life, but we can certainly add life to our days. So I would like to encourage people to do what you can to add life to your days, because nobody loves you and cares for you more than you. And hopefully that's true for you, that you do care for yourself and love yourself.
Wow. I love that, Carmen. We may not be able to add days to our lives, but we can add life to our days. And that's something that I share a lot is that, being healthy is more than just not being sick very often. It is having the energy and the vibrance and the joy of waking up every morning and not dreading it and being able to do what God has called us to do. And
Amen.
He takes us home. That's my goal in life. So I love that. And I just want to pray that right now for you and everyone listening. May God show us how to add life to our days. I want to thank you, Carmen, again for taking the time to share your thoughts and words of wisdom with everyone listening today. And as always, I want to thank everyone for listening, and I hope you have been strengthened in your resolve to continue in your journey of healthy living. And until next time, this is Sue Becker from Bread Beckers with Sue's Healthy Minutes.
Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast has been a presentation by the Bread Beckers Incorporated located in Woodstock, Georgia. For more information, store hours, and learning opportunities, visit breadbeckers.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Share this with 2 friends who would benefit from this information, and be sure to join us again next week for more of Sue's Healthy Minutes.